This week's episode of Akame ga Kill was easily the best episode of the series so far. It had better production value, it had kick-ass action scenes, we got to learn a little bit more about Akame's backstory, and it also introduced the concept of the Imperial Arms, which are these super badass weapons which every member of Night Raid has, except for Tatsumi. And that just brings up the big question. When is Tatsumi going to get his Imperial Arms weapon, and what is it going to be? I can't wait to see when that's going to happen. It's pretty obvious he's going to get a super weapon like that, and they even hint that later on, he probably will. But the coolest part about this episode is that they actually get to go up against probably their most competent opponent thus far, known as Zank the Executioner. Or maybe it's Zank. I hear Zonk, so I'm going to call him Zonk. So, Zonk is an executioner, as his name would imply, and he has an obsession with cutting off people's heads and talking. He does this so he can drown out the voices of all the dead people who are talking to him. Cuckoo! When Zonk is introduced at the beginning of this week's episode, he definitely leaves an impression because he's torturing this woman and then just decapitates her, and it's really violent, over the top, but it really sets the tone for the rest of the episode, and it makes you hate the villain, and you want to see his ass get kicked. So, the Imperial weapons, that's probably the most important thing to take away from this episode, is that apparently in the past, these badass weapons were created, and some of them were stolen or just dispersed, and a lot of random people have these weapons. If you're an Imperial Arms user, chances are you're considered a threat and kind of a badass. And if an Imperial Arms user goes up against another, one of them is going to die. This is a known rule. And you know this is just a setup for that action scene at the end of this week, but it's really awesome. It's also cool because they go around to the different members of Night Raid and explain their powers just a little bit more, and that's always a good thing. But let's face it, guys, what you're going to remember this week is that action. All the action! Not only did it involve Tatsumi at the beginning, who won sort of the mental battle against Zonk, but when Akame finally made her arrival and just came out of the sky, that was awesome. And I love when she goes all out and she just flies towards Zonk and goes crazy. This is when the animation starts to get really fun, and you can see she's really pushing him back against the wall. But Zonk has this other ability because, of course, they're introducing Imperial Arms. This guy's going to have a weapon like that. And he's wearing this weird thing on his head that allows him to read, like, the movements of the fighter he's going against. But he can also, like, read their mind a little bit, and he can also catch a peek at their panties, which is kind of strange. But the main thing is here, he's able to, like, bring up some old memories from Akame, which involved her old friend, Kuromi. And I'm not sure what the deal with Kuromi is, because they haven't talked about her character yet. I imagine that they probably had to fight each other, or they were forced to fight, or they had, like, some sort of falling out, or Akame might have actually killed her. But I'm not really sure. They're not really talking about that, but that's not going to break Akame at all. She immediately starts to go for the kill and finishes off Zonk in a really badass fashion. And in a way, she sets him free. He can no longer hear the voices anymore, and he actually has something of a peaceful death. But that's pretty much it. That's the end of the episode, and it was awesome. So what's the rundown on this week's episode of Akame ga Kill? Badass. That's what it is. There was a lot of really cool things about this episode, and a lot of teasing, and a lot of funny moments, too. The episode actually opened up with Tatsumi doing a little bit of training with Bulat, who is continuing to creep him out with his pompadouriness. But that's beside the point. The action this week, that's what really set everything apart. I sort of figured in the beginning of the episode when they brought up the concept of when an Imperial Arms user fights against another that one of them's going to die, that Tatsumi obviously was not going to be the one that would finish off Zonk, and I was really hoping that it was going to be Akame. However, there's so many other members of Night Raid that I really want them to get into, and it's kind of hard to, like, pick and choose who your favorite is at this point. Bulat is still my favorite, and a lot of that just has to do with his powers, which are just so incredibly badass. But otherwise, animation, artwork, voice acting, music, all pretty good stuff this week. Still nothing too crazy, but this was definitely the best episode of the series, which featured the most highest production value and had a great mixture of comedy, action, a little bit of story, and the Imperial Arms concept is really, really cool. So check this week's episode out. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. Best episode so far. Thank you guys for watching my review today. Before you leave, make sure and hit that like button so you can give this video a thumbs up. And please tell me what you guys thought about this week's episode of Akame ga Kill. What did you think of the battle between Akame and Zank? Remember guys, you can also subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and you can also check us out on Facebook and on Twitter. I'll put links for those in the description box below.
Do you like Amazon.com? I know I do. Corey and I now have an Amazon link in our video description box below. And if you go to it and buy anything through Amazon.com, it will support our channel. So bookmark that link, make it happen, and support our channel without having to do a damn thing.
Another great way you guys can help support our channel is by donating directly through our PayPal link in the description box below. We recommend $2 a month, although this is completely optional. But the best way to go about this is by sneaking into your mom's room and taking $2. This way, she won't even notice. And we won't have to shake you up for all of your lunch money. So guys, that concludes this review today. Super Kami Guru 9000. Out.